My name is Scott Bennett. Back in 2023, I had an emergency heart transplant that saved my life and changed my life. Now I'm having conversations about life that get straight to the heart of it. 1,118 days, heart of it. It's graduation season, and I've had a lot of interesting conversations. It's a lot of milestones for so many of my friends and people I know, whether you've got a kindergartner who's moving to first grade or one from preschool to kindergarten. And of course, I just had a college graduate, pretty proud of my daughter. So we've got two out of college, and I feel like for whatever reason around me, I'm hearing conversations about parenting. So today's guest, who I'm about to introduce, is a longtime friend of mine who does something that I don't think I know anybody else that does it. And it's my friend from so many years ago, all the way back at summer camp, author and founder of Mastermind Parenting, Randi Rubenstein. Welcome, Randi.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.
So I think you probably heard my intro, and I had thought about you when I started this podcast at the very beginning because you do something so interesting, and I think it's on the minds of everybody. I think you probably heard this idea that we're never done parenting if you have kids. You ever hear that?
Although I've had a lot of people since I've become an empty nester say, "Are you still doing that parenting thing?" And I'm like, I am.
Well,
I am.
Right. So that begs the very first question how does one become a parenting expert?
Okay, first of all, I hate the word expert. I think
right.
Like,
because what makes you an expert?
Anyone that calls themselves an expert, I mean, come on. It's like people that have to tell you they're really smart or really kind. And it's like, really? If you have to say it, is it true?
Right.
Yeah. So I wouldn't call myself an expert. It's my passion talking about parenting, which seems like the most boring subject, and yet it affects all of us, even people who don't have kids, because they were a kid, and there's always, like everybody has issues from growing up, and I don't know, it's just the topic that sort of found me, and it was accidental. And the way I found it was my interest. I became a mom, and I became a mom younger than a lot of our friends.
Right.
I got married, and 6 months after I got married, I was pregnant. And so I was like, we're doing this. And so I became a mom at 27. And so I had my first child when I was 27. And once I had him, I just started reading books and, I don't know, all of a sudden I wanted to read the most boring shit. And my husband, Scott, would be like, what are you reading? Like, why are you acting like you're studying, you're cramming for a semester final? Like, what the fuck are you reading?
Right.
And I don't know. I just, now what I know, because I've been a coach for a lot of years and I love different assessments and, just things that let us know how we're wired. I'm a fact finder. So whenever I'm trying to solve a problem, and for me, the problem was I had a baby that cried a lot, and I didn't even know what I was trying to figure out, but what I know now is that I just wanted my kids to be happy. I just wanted them to have a happy childhood. I wanted happy kids. I wanted to be a really good mom. And I had a baby that startled all the time and cried all the time. I mean, babies cry a lot anyway, but right. It was just kind of hard. And so I think I'm a problem solver. I think we all are. And so I was just on the hunt for information and started reading a lot of parenting books. And I just sort of got hooked on what it takes to raise.
Did others naturally come to you? I mean, one thing I remember about you, because we go back long enough, and I think I reflected this when we recently spoke, is that you told it how it was. And I really appreciate that as a young friend, and especially as we've had phases where we've communicated, but I've admired you because I think you were, for me in my life, one of those females that just said it. You just said it. And I think probably I wonder if what you were learning, you were telling your peers when they were starting, because you were, you're a fact finder, but you knew information. And at that time we didn't have the internet. So you were sort of probably right. Like people were coming to you, and you were sort of the Bible on parenting.
Well, let me say this. Were people coming to me when I was learning this and it was my personal life? No, I cringe at when I'm learning something. Like I want to talk about it. Or, I mean, if I find amazing shoes on sale, I want to tell you where to go
Me
get
too.
them, right?
Yeah.
And so anything that is piquing my curiosity, I'm talking about because I'm a talker. I'm a little bit of an extrovert. And yeah, unfortunately, there was a lot of people in my personal life that were hearing, they were like, I was holding them captive. So were they coming to me? I don't think so.
Maybe right. They were prisoners to your information,
They were
but obviously you saw some light bulb moments that said, hey, maybe there's a need for this, right?
Yeah,
Others were, they
when
were
you
struggling.
know what, I think I wasn't finding. I think the prisoners were revolting in my personal life, and so I had to find an outlet for it. And so eventually, I started to teach some parenting classes. And when I started to teach these classes, I sort of had this curriculum. It's like a whole long story that I won't get into, but I was also working with teachers and training teachers in classroom management. And so I was loving this program, and I sort of translated it and adapted it to parenting. It wasn't a parenting program. It was really a program for teachers, like with kids that have behavior problems.
Right.
So I was learning all this information, and it was kind of academic because it was a program for teachers. So it was talking a lot about, this was back in 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
So it was before neuroscience was such a hot topic for regular people like us. And I was learning all about like the brain and neuroscience, and it was fascinating to me. You know, when you get super annoyed with a kid, when you get activated, it's because chances are there's something that is, you know, it's like there's something that's being tapped into inside of you that maybe you're feeling disrespected or ignored or dismissed. And so, like, all of a sudden, it kind of was like my introduction into a little bit of self-help. And it was like a side door into, what do you mean when people lose their temper? It means that there's something inside of them that has just been, you know, so I was
Right.
just like so enraptured. And so I needed an outlet. So I started teaching these classes and working with these teachers. And when I was teaching the classes, I wasn't a teacher. I was a freaking sociology major in college
Right.
and a women's studies minor. Um, and so I didn't, you know, I didn't know I had a little bit of a gift for teaching, but when I would teach, I was so excited about what I was learning, and I was teaching through story, and mostly stories of, this is how it went sideways in my household, and this is what I now realize. And so I was teaching with really a lot of the shit show
Personal.
moments.
Yeah, personal experience. And by the
Yeah.
way, as a heart transplant recipient, I share stories, and quite frankly, I talk about it even in my career in insurance. We tell stories of other clients because people see themselves in another, and there's some solidarity in parenting, as you might imagine, because yeah, your kid may have cried. I have two daughters, and we had different things, and there was all these philosophies, by the way, which is what intrigued me about when you were doing. And I think I remember saying, my wife used Baby Wise. I don't even know if that's still a thing. I ask young parents, like there was this whole parenting system. I'm like, what are we doing? I'm like, my wife's coming in and she's, very type A about how we were in the philosophy. So I remember when you said to me, you had come to Dallas, I think, and you were going to a conference, and we spent time. We spent some good time together that day, and you've stuck with it, and I've paid attention in the distance, but it's such a needed thing. So here's what I want to ask. As you reflect back, you've stayed with it, and as you said, you're now an empty nester and you're still doing it. The job of parenting is never done. And I tell my friends that are mothers, I say that's the most important job. As a dad, I still say the mother is the most important. I still want my mother. She's sadly not here and hasn't been here for most of my life. And I actually said it today to somebody, believe it or not. Like, we have fond memories of our parents, but at the same time, like you said at the intro, it's just part of the growth. So as you look at it, what would you tell yourself with all this knowledge starting over again? Would you say, go do this? It's great. Or do you love it as much as you did the day you started? I'm just
Oh
curious
my
how you think
God.
about it.
I love it even more. I mean, no, I'm obsessed. I do it all day, every day. You know, I have a way that I work
Well,
with
how do you do
people.
it? So what is it, right? Like I was going to get to that. Obviously you love it. Talk to me about the fundamentals of this, because I've paid attention, but how do you wrap this up we're not going to be able to go deep and wide on it, but at a high level, what is it that Mastermind Parenting and the books and sort of your philosophy?
So my philosophy is that I think, look, when you're raising kids, I like a lot of the ancient wisdom. And before we started recording, I was talking about a friend of mine who wrote this book, Hunt, Gather, Parent. And she's a journalist that ended up accidentally writing a parenting book, kind of. And we bonded so much because when she wrote this book that came out in 2020, it sort of validated what I stand for, which is, human beings have been raising little human beings for, I don't know, hundreds
Since the beginning of time.
Yes. I don't know. Is it millions of years? Is it hundreds of thousands of years? For a really long freaking time. And we think we're so evolved, but so often I think we're just overcomplicating things. And I coined a term years ago. The only other person I've ever heard really use it is Cesar Millan. And I'm not comparing kids to dogs, but I believe that we are pack animals. I think there's a lot of anthropologists that would say the same. Human beings are pack animals, and the parents are the pack leaders. And to your point, especially the mom, and in some families, it becomes dad who's the main caregiver. But in the majority of families that I have known or worked with, the mom is the pack leader, is the main pack leader. And the little children are looking to the pack leader for guidance. They're learning how to be alive. And so I think human development fascinates me. And the more I learned about normal stages of human development and what kids actually need, and so much of it just comes down to leadership. So there's so many different philosophies, like from Baby Wise to, I remember reading the whole spectrum. I read Baby Wise, but then I read this doctor at the time, Dr. Sears, who was all about co-sleeping with your baby. I wanted to read all of it.
Right.
And then what I did was I took bits and pieces from whatever sort of, I tried a lot of things. I threw a lot of spaghetti at the wall. And then ultimately I would land on, this is what feels right for me. But what I know now is that I was figuring out how to be the pack leader of my family, and understanding that when a 3-year-old all of a sudden gets to this stage where they say, I do it myself, or no. And something as simple as 2 positive choices. Do you want to put your right foot or your left foot in first? Do you want the red cup or the green cup? Sounds so stupid. But it was like you give a little 3-year-old choice, and all of a sudden they have all these little bursts of empowerment. That was fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And then at 13, they go through something similar, but it looks different because a 13-year-old has a lot more language and a lot more attitude, right? And so, so basically, what I believe in is the parents being the leaders of the family and just helping the little people know this is the way we do things here.
Like a system.
So, yeah,
This
is the system. So whether the system is Baby Wise or whether the system is
It's an operating system.
Yes, there's less uncertainty, and
Yeah.
this is the way we do things here. This is what we stand for. These are our core values. Violence is not an option in this family. You have rules in place. And I think what a lot of these modern parenting programs, I think where people get confused is that, there's so much validating of feelings. And I think little kids are so literal that we want them to know feelings are allowed, feelings are important. And also talking about feelings all day long when they just need to know this is okay, this is not okay. I think it can make the whole thing real murky and real confusing. And it can make the parents feel like, I don't know what I can say. I tried to memorize the script of the latest social media parenting expert, but then I couldn't remember it when my kid was smacking me and running away,
Right.
So, yeah, I have a whole series of programs that I've created. And when people come and work with me, I put them, they go through our programs. But ultimately, people come to me because they have a hard kid. They have a strong-willed kid. They have a hard kid. They have a kid that in extreme cases may eventually, somebody might say, oh, this kid seems like they might have oppositional defiance disorder.
Well, I gotta tell you, like I hadn't paid a lot of attention, but while we're recording this today, right, there was another. I don't not to laugh at all because it feels like every week you cut on the news and there's some mass shooting, and I happen to see the profile without knowing too much, but it's two teenage kids where there were signs, right? And if you're those parents, regardless of, it's just how do you as a parent, like I think put myself in the shoes for just a second, empathetic about the parent. Did they know? Could they have stopped it? What could they do? Do they feel responsible? All the things that might go around for 1 second while I'm a parent of my own kids, right? Like this is today. It's like a 17 and 18-year-old. They conspired to do this thing, and I don't know all the details, and it's irrelevant. But at somewhere behind all that are some parents who were just trying to do their best. You hope, right? And I always used to say, to help myself feel better, people a lot dumber than me have done this, to your point, since the beginning of time. That's how because I laughed at myself at the choices. And at the end of the day, you at every stage you look at it. So I think you're right to think about this idea about the system. And I remember knowing that. I remember thinking, though, you were an early adopter to community, to this concept of community. You created your own community. And now I think social media and stuff have caught up, and there's lots of communities. So you've created a parenting community, haven't you?
Yeah, I have a membership community. It was an accidental. Everything has sort of been kind of accidental. I just sort of did the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So I wrote a book. It came out in 2016. And from that book, I was working with private clients. And I got a coaching certification in like 2013. Then I wrote a book in 2015, came out in 2016. And then from that book, when I was working with private clients, I was putting them through sort of this program that I just created a program based on the chapters of my book. And it was great. But then I just didn't have enough space. I still had 3 kids at home at the time. Yeah. And I didn't have the time to work. I had a long wait list of private clients. So I decided, I think probably got some business advice and business coaching, to start my first group program.
The scale.
Yeah. And just to see, can I teach this program and coach people in a group format? I didn't know. It was an experiment. And so I did that probably in 2017. And that first program it was an 8-week program. I had 25 families in it. And after the program completed, it was sort of like having a party, and then people, like, you're flicking the lights for them to leave and they won't freaking leave. And so they were like, we just got started. Like, we want more.
Right.
And from that, I started creating more programs, and that's how my membership community got started.
To learn more about Randi Rubenstein or Mastermind Parenting, follow her on social media or go to mastermindparenting.com. I don't think there will ever be, with AI and all the things, I don't think AI can help us parent our kids. So you're in one of those interesting spaces where, yes, we've been doing this, as you said, since the beginning of time, but there will always be parents. And it leads me down a path. I was speaking to a parent today, actually a father who has an anxious child, severe, and the child has had it since 9, and the child has a mother that's deceased, died during the youth, and so they really battle it. And I love this friend of mine, and I just tried to, as another dad, say like, hey, what are all the things that you might do, right? You might seek professional help, you might get medication, but I said, the anxiety for this child is one of one. So my question is, how do you take these individual situations and empower the parents to make them feel? Because I could hear that the way that I told you about the news this morning and this today, it feels like everywhere I turn, parents, somewhere during a day, I don't ever go a day with a parent not talking about a child and some problem, to your point. How do you take on without taking on the emotions of having empathy, but not feeling for that parent? How do you do that? I know,
it's so interesting. Something amazing. I didn't expect the group format to be as magical as it is. I think parenting can feel pretty isolating, especially when you've got a kid that you're really worried about. Yeah. Those are not things you want to go publicize, because also you don't know if somebody's going to hold it against your kid, and then your kid's going to get a bad reputation, right? So to have this safe community and I think those parenting groups and on social media, sometimes, I haven't in a long time, but I spent time in the past lurking in them a little bit. They're scary places because there's no real facilitator. And so, I'm the pack leader of my groups. And everybody knows, like, there's a certain way I run my groups. It is a safe zone. There is no judgment. We tell the truth. You're finding out what's really going on in people's relationships and behind their curtains, and they're finding out your stuff. And I'm holding that for everyone. I've never been in a group that is, the majority of my members are women. I have a few super cool dads, but the majority of the active participants are women. There is no drama in my groups. It is a hype girl group. There is no mean girl BS nonsense. It is unbelievable. And so for women to have a place where it actually feels safe, and, somebody said to me recently, like, how do you sleep at night? Because the way I run my groups, I have, a couple group coaching calls a week, and we have an app, and we have our programs, and everybody can watch the replays and yada, yada, yada. So we've got all the technology things, but I also have everyone, I use this one app, and I have everyone in these little small, tiny cohorts. And so they basically have a 911 button anytime they're in the fire, where they can go and I, look, I love what I do, and thank goodness I have a coworker that has been with me she was in that very first 25 person group. She came to me as a client, and she's now been working with me for 8 years, and she's my membership manager. And so, and she's as obsessed with what we do.
Yeah, you obviously, that speaks volumes, right? That it was probably empowering for her, and now she's part of it.
Oh, it's amazing. And so what we do is, between she and I and the other members of the group, no one ever has to feel all alone in it. And so they come on and they leave messages. And so I'm kind of coaching people all the time. And they're like, somebody said, how do you have the bandwidth for this? Because you're responding to people and you're coaching people all the time. And I said, I think it's because I believe so hard in y'all and this process. And I've just seen so many people transform their families and their lives that, like, I'm not worried about any of you or your kids, frankly. Like, the fact that you're here having these conversations as much as I am, like, we're in it. And I'm like, all of our kids hit the jackpot. So I can, and I'm not.
Because you have parents raising their hands, and you've created a curriculum and a place and a community. And how can anybody in that group not look at the other and say, you're here trying, And I think that sometimes you feel I always say we don't get rewards and trophies as parents, right? I do a really good job of telling my friends, and I really love to do it. When I run into whether it's an adult child or a kid, if I've had a positive experience with somebody's kid that's moved me, I tell the parent, I'll go out of my way, I'll send an email, and parents really appreciate that. So you're doing that in a much grander scale. I've always done that, and people always note that I do that because I really like young people, and listen, you had a good point. We all grew up with parents, and we probably know that our parents, I say this to my own parents who are no longer living, they did the best they could, and I'm grateful for that because it is the hardest job there is. One thing that's been burning when I knew you agreed to be on is there a golden rule for parenting? Do you have a single golden rule that you would say for all parents?
The golden rule. So I just was telling someone this today. I have this program called the 10 Truths of Mastermind Parenting and 10 Lies that get in the way. And truth number 1 is kids are not responsible for adult emotions.
That's great.
I think that's kind of the golden rule. Mm-hmm. That, like, we're adults. We're fully grown. Yeah. So you may think that your kid pushes your buttons.
But you are. You have agency,
you know? So you can make that behavior mean whatever you want, and you can also get curious. And, I think part of what keeps me so obsessed with what I do is, I was trained as a coach a long time ago. So I'm always curious because I know nothing happened. Like, there's always more to the story. So I sort of feel like I constantly get to play investigative journalist. Yeah. I'm always, able to like there is an element of our programs teach, and we're kind of teaching a new way of thinking about things, and everything's really kind of common sense and obvious, but it's just not the way many of us were raised, and it's maybe a deeper way of thinking about things. But really what I'm pulling out of each person is, you are a person that came here with your own experience, and I'm fascinated by everyone's stories. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's so
We share
interesting,
that.
so
We share that.
yeah.
Well, um, you had to think that if you're going to have this, and I know it must come up in every conversation, because one of the things that's changed is, we went from base level social media to, a world of influence to now AI. And so the stimuli for our youngest set, including our oldest set, is the same. So just curious, high level on social media, its role in parenting, and the challenges of parenting, in a world that is never going to be able to put the genie back in the bottle on that.
I mean, I've been saying this for a long time, and thank goodness now there's books like Jonathan Haidt's Anxious Generation that's come out, my friend Michaeline's book Dopamine Kids that's come out, because I've been saying it forever. Like, it's the wild, wild west. We don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Right.
And frankly, it's probably like cigarettes. Or I remember when I got into high school, some of the older high schoolers were like, oh, ecstasy, it's now illegal, but we used to be able to buy it at the pharmacy. It was called Eve. And I was like, you could buy X at the pharmacy, And so there's no regulations yet. I mean, I know that it's coming because of Jonathan Haidt's work, and I know there's been some amazing lawsuits now. But I think that, these algorithms, we're all susceptible to having our attention hijacked. And,
Well, it happened to my mother-in-law, who swore she used to get frustrated. This is a real moment, and a familial moment for you. We were in the car. We were going down to Austin. She was in the back seat for a 3-hour car ride. And she used to get really frustrated when my girls were little, when they first got devices. And we were diligent about when we introduced that, when we thought was appropriate and right. And she used to get really frustrated. Now she is way worse than them, and they're in the back seat. She sees herself. She actually commented, "Oh my gosh, it's like happening to me," because she's scrolling, right? So why are we to think that our our youngest set isn't going to feel that way? But boy, does that create a whole nother set. And we were parenting in that, even just getting the device. I ask a lot of parents right now. You probably didn't know I was so interested in parenting, but I ask guys who I work with in my office who were younger. I'm like, at what age are you giving your kids phones? How soon are they pushing on you now? Because it used to be like, there was in your peer group, in your community, what was safe. But now that age is getting younger. And I see parents at dinner where every kid has a screen at the table, right? Which when we tried to make sure that they were coloring, or more than that, we were having conversations at our dinner tables. So this world of stimuli, I don't think it's ever going to change. And I love how you put it, which is, we don't have any regulation on it. I don't know that we ever will. To be honest, I don't know.
Look, I think, the golden rule of parenting is how kids are not responsible for adult emotions. And also, they learn by what we do.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, how many people come and they are, so frustrated because their kids won't get off a device. And it's months until I finally realize, mom or dad, they're on their phones all the time. I mean, I just coached a couple moms on this last week, where they were frustrated because these two moms are really hitting, really trying to get technology in check. And then dad is at the dinner table and on his phone. And from the time he's home, he's just on his phone. He's like, I'm working. I got to work.
Yeah.
And
guilty of it, though. I'm guilty of that.
Well, right. And I feel like I want to make a social media post, but I think I have to calm down a little bit because I don't want to be preachy about it.
Right.
But, I was saying this to a friend the other day. I think that manners have not caught up yet because this is all new and it's been the wild, wild west. And so in my family, and my friend Michaeline just quoted me in her latest book, Dopamine Kids, where I'm like, people before technology. That was just one of our core values. So if people come before technology, then you cannot hit. Kids hate hypocrisy. So you can't be a hypocrite. You can't say to your kids, like, get off your phone. You've been on your phone. Your face is
Yeah,
on your
yeah, and
screen.
don't you got to do it too. You got to lead by example, right?
But
So
but what I said to these moms was, I said, and one of the moms I know, like her husband is like, he actually grew up in Dallas and first generation Indian guy, and he's very into manners. And I said, you need to explain to him it's fucking rude. It's rude. It's
right.
rude as shit. You know what? When I go on a walk and a mom, not only does she have her phone, but she also has her Apple Watch, or anyone. It's like, unless you are a heart surgeon on call or delivering babies, like, it can wait. Why are we putting the devices before people? See, I'm
Well, I'll
worked
tell
up
you
about
the weirdest part of that, away from
it.
parenting, and I think it's a societal thing, and I don't know that we'll ever be. Is like I was at a concert the other night. I've long thought this. I'm guilty of it, by the way, because I just thought something was cool, and I asked myself, am I ever going to go back and watch that video that I was holding up my phone instead of being present with the band that I came
Right.
to see, right? Which
Right.
is like, we see that, like, I always say that, and then I find myself doing it. But it was this moment because the reason I did do it is I wanted to share it with a few friends that weren't there. I'm like, I want you to see this, this, which is how I'm watching, like I'm seeing like Harry Styles and all these people, like they want that. I mean, that's where we may not even need to go to the concert anymore to just be part of
Well,
it.
I would push back on another reason, because I was at a concert recently, and I'm not even a concert lover, but I was at a concert because I was trying to pretend that I was that person.
Right.
And I noticed everyone with the phones up. And what I'll say is, it gives you something to do, because if you don't have the phone up and you're filming, think about it. You're like dancing.
You're uncomfortable with your own.
And you're like,
I get some of that too.
am I in the moment enough? Do I know the
Right.
words? I don't even know. They all know the words. I don't know the words. Maybe I'll just film.
I had the inner thought, but this is because you've known me long enough, and the male minute of insecurity. Although I'm very comfortable in who I am, where like, because I was on the front row of my section, are all the people behind me judging my body sway? Like, are they critiquing my body sway? That's my Seinfeld moment. Like, so I was like more dancing for the people behind me than I was for myself. And knowing that was my moment that was going on. But you're right. There are no rules of engagement. So I would have normally done this in the beginning, but I was so excited to talk about parenting, and we could do it for a long time. And I hope people that are watching this will reach out, find you. I will make sure that they do. We will give you a chance to do that. But I just want to talk a few minutes about our friendship, because one of the reasons that I do this podcast, people ask me, what's it about? And I've gotten it really good, which is, I wanted the podcast, the idea conceptually was because I know so many interesting people. That is me, and I'm proud of that. That is a gift, and I think you've noted that about me, which
You're
means
such
a lot.
connector. Yeah.
And I love that. But I love the stories like you do too of what my friends are doing. My friends are doing so many cool things. I have so many cool friends. I have the most cool friends of anybody, I think. And you were one of those people, and like I knew when I called you, but I was thinking about the first time, because we met at an age, speaking of kids, when our parents sent us to summer camp. We're both summer campers. So just a second about your like reflection on summer camp, and I want to share mine because we're about to be in summer, so we're not getting to go to camp. I wish we were. I would love to go to camp with you as an adult.
I know.
What did summer camp mean to you?
My little 10-year-old niece, Carol's daughter, was just over here the other day, and she's going to summer camp this summer, and we were talking about it, and I was like, oh, I'm so jealous.
I want a trunk and all my clothes and a fan.
Oh my God. I'm so jealous.
Rest hour.
I just was like, yeah, I mean, I feel it in my body. Just
Still.
like, and being with her, and she's 10 and she's nervous. She's going somewhere out of state.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about it, and I was like, yeah, because you're going somewhere that you've never been there. She's like, and I have to go on a plane to get there. And I was like, I know. And the first couple of days will be weird. And she's like, and the bathrooms aren't even in the cabin. Like, you have to go out in a towel. And we were just talking about it. And I was just thinking, I was like, oh my God, it was the best. It was my favorite time of year. It was my best memories from my childhood.
Yeah. I have to say, you and I, and you make friendships that here we are as adult friends. And I admire you you were a year older than me. I think we're very close in age, but you were to me an older woman, but one that I, as I said at the onset, I respected. But just those relationships that to all the things you said, we weren't from the same place. You were from Corpus Christi, right? And I was from Dallas. So we didn't have a way to stay in touch. Although we wrote letters, like when we made friends, we had long distance friends. So many social behaviors as a result of that experience. And listen, I think my parents were, to your point, parents were glad to have the break because my sisters also went to camp. They tried to send me very early. What do your kids think about you? I mean, now you said they're empty nesters and I'm the same. Like, have they enjoyed watching you build this? Have they been inspired? I mean, I think you mentioned one of your daughters is going to be working with you and involved with you, right?
She is. She's already working with me. She's in grad school right now, getting a master's in social work to be a therapist. And we've written 5 children's books that will be coming out pretty soon. And we're starting.
That's awesome.
And we've recorded 6 episodes of our new podcast, Settle Down. Everybody look for it. It should be releasing, I think, in August. And kind of Gilmore Girl vibes, but we're talking about these books that we wrote. And even though they're kids' books, like our producer, when we were recording our episodes, every time we would talk about a book, he's like, my kids are grown, but I want to read these books. And that's the idea, is that these are books for kids, but they're really human concepts, and it's like we're showing people how to have hard conversations and talk about hard things. And each one of these stories is about a story from our own lives. So we tell the story behind the story, and I think my daughter brings a good voice, because it's not like, oh, here, let me be with my mom on this podcast and show everyone that I'm just going to regurgitate everything that she's taught me. There's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of what she remembers, mistakes I made.
Right.
So it's kind of, they're fun conversations because they're just real. So I would say, I started really building this when my youngest son, who's now a sophomore in college, he's 20, was in 4th grade. And
it's unbelievable. Yeah.
So they've all been a part of it, and it's also been nice. I think it's part of why my groups get along so well, because, the mom wars of working mom, stay-at-home mom, like I've been both. And so there is no mom wars in my groups at all, 0.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
which is very cool. And I would say probably 40% of my clients are stay-at-home moms. And the 60% that are working moms, I have a lot of physician moms, lawyers. So like very busy working mom.
Yeah.
And so but it's been neat to see how and I think because I was a stay-at-home mom, and then I started this business, and I didn't have a business degree. I didn't know how to run a business. And so I was always trying to learn things and doing launches and trying out something that was a fail, experimenting with things. And so I think my kids have been invested in, just like I was a student while they were students. And so,
yeah. Well, it's, I know, like you said, our kids are paying attention. You said that is one of your concepts. And I think that your kids, I don't really, I know your kids, but I don't know them well, and I would like to know them. And it's ironic to me all those years ago that we have so many common interests, but we always had that connection. You were such a special friend and have been a special friend. I don't think you knew, by the way, that I also went to get certified as a coach. I did an ICF certification. I didn't finish the program. We can talk about that later. But I've also written a book, which you were very sweet to offer that. I just finished, and the edit is done, so I'm excited. That'll be coming out this summer. And just the similarities, but I've just admired that you took on this really hard subject that so many people want. I imagine I will get a lot of people asking me, like, how do I get a hold? And people will be listening, and they will see. So I just want you to know how, first of all, I'm proud of you for staying the course and for sharing your gifts, your straight talk and your perspective, because people need it, and they will continue to need it. So keep doing it.
Thank you.
And just the lesson that I take away from today is that our kids are paying attention, and they are not responsible for the actions. And the other thing is, just for parents out there, what you said is, you're the leader of the pack, especially moms. And I carry the flag of moms. I'm, as a dad, just know that they're paying attention. You're the leader of the pack. And so rest in that. Know that there's a community and there's people like Randi out there, but also, lean on your peers and don't be afraid. I mean, you've said so many good things, and it's been such a joy to have you. So thanks for joining Heart of It. By the way, how do people find you?
People can find me. I mean, I have a website. Well, I think the best way is probably social media. That's what I really want is social media followers. So right now I'm sort of currently obsessed with TikTok. And I know I'm late to the game.
Okay.
My kids are.
Yes.
I am not a big social media person. We do put stuff out on Instagram. Everything is under my name, Randi Rubenstein on Instagram. It's Randi like an underscore Rubenstein because there's a whole other Randi
I
Rubenstein.
know. I found her. Luckily, I didn't start sending weird notes to her.
And she like does. I tried to, and on YouTube too, and she wasn't willing to give
Yeah.
it up. But on
Right.
TikTok, she is not on TikTok, and I actually like TikTok the best. And so, yeah. So I put out also like I put out a lot of videos of like my dogs too.
Okay.
So
They
and
can. They will find you. Well, I would encourage everybody that listens or watches or sees a reel to get in touch with you. But thank you for agreeing to do this. Such a wealth of knowledge and such a treasured friendship. It's been awesome.
this was awesome. Thanks, Scott.